The warning lights painted Hanwoo's face red as he gripped the ship's controls. The broken chain groaned under the stress of maximum acceleration. Behind him in the dark corridors, his cargo stirred restlessly in their containment pods. He had been running cargo for 15 years, but this felt different. This felt like the end. "Captain, they're gaining on us," his engineer Kyung-ho called from the back of the bridge. The man's voice cracked with fear. 3 galactic enforcement ships had been chasing them for 2 days straight through the outer rim systems. Hanwoo had never seen them push this hard for any single cargo run. "How much time until we reach the asteroid field?" Hanwoo asked. His eyes focused on the navigation display. The field ahead was marked in red on all star charts. Ships that went in rarely came out, but it was their only chance. 20 minutes at current speed, Kyung-ho replied, checking his instruments. "But Captain, the containment pods are showing stress fractures. Whatever's in there is not happy about the rough ride." Hanwoo had been trafficking alien specimens across the galaxy for most of his adult life. He started small, moving exotic. Pets and rare animals between worlds. Then came the bigger jobs, the ones that paid enough to buy a whole planet. Sentient beings fetched the highest prices, especially the rare ones from restricted space. This cargo was different, though. He had picked them up from a dead drop in the void sectors, the empty space between galaxies where nothing was supposed to exist. The job came with a payment that made him question if it was real. 20 million credits up front, with 40 million more on delivery. Enough money to retire and disappear forever. The beings in the cargo hold were unlike anything he had seen before. They looked almost human, but with pale blue skin that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. Their eyes were completely black, like looking into deep space. Most strange of all, they did not fight their captivity. They sat quietly in their pods, watching everything with those dark eyes. "Enforcement ships are hailing us again," Kyung-ho reported. "They're demanding we stop and prepare for boarding." "Tell them we're having engine trouble," Hanwoo said. It was a lie he had used 100 times before. "Buy me a few more minutes." The asteroid field loomed ahead like a wall of spinning death. Chunks of rock the size of cities tumbled through space, crashing into each other with enough force to vaporize a ship. The navigation computer was already warning him about the danger, displaying probability calculations that showed less than 5% chance of survival. Hanwoo looked at the enforcement ships closing in behind them. Agent Yunji had been hunting him for 3 years. She was smart, dedicated, and completely ruthless when it came to stopping traffickers. If she caught him this time, he would spend the rest of his life in a prison colony. "Captain, I'm picking up some kind of transmission from the cargo hold," Kyung-ho said, his face pale. "It's not coming through our communication systems. It's like it's going directly into my head." Hanwoo felt it too. A soft whisper in his mind, speaking words he could not quite understand. The voice was calm, almost soothing, but it filled him with an overwhelming sense of sadness. Images flashed through his thoughts, pictures of worlds he had never seen, of civilizations that looked ancient and beautiful. "They're trying to communicate," Hanwoo realized. In 15 years of trafficking, none of his cargo had ever tried to talk to him. Most were too scared or too angry. These beings were different. The whisper in his mind grew stronger as they approached the asteroid field. Hanwoo could almost make out words now, spoken in a language that felt older than the stars themselves. The beings were warning him about something, but he could not understand what. "Enforcement ships are powering weapons," Kyung-ho reported. "They're not planning to take us alive this time." Hanwoo made his choice. He pushed the throttle to maximum and dove into the asteroid field. The broken chain shuddered as it weaved between massive chunks of spinning rock. The ship's hull scraped against a smaller asteroid, sending sparks flying across the bridge. Behind them, 2 of the enforcement ships stopped at the edge of the field. But one ship, painted with the silver and blue colors of elite enforcement, followed them in. Hanwoo knew without looking that it was Yunji's ship. She would follow him into hell itself to make the arrest. The whispers in his head became more urgent as they flew deeper into the field. The beings in the cargo hold were trying to tell him something important, but the words kept slipping away. From his understanding, all he could feel was their growing fear, not of him or the asteroids, but of something else entirely. A massive asteroid, easily 10 kilometers across, spun directly into their path. Hanwoo pulled hard on the controls, trying to steer around it. The ship responded too slowly. They were going to hit. "Brace for impact!" Hanwoo shouted. The broken chain slammed into the asteroid with tremendous force. The lights went out instantly. Hanwoo felt himself thrown against the control panel as the ship tumbled through space. He could hear Kyung-ho screaming somewhere in the darkness. Metal groaned and snapped as the ship came apart around them. Then everything went quiet. Hanwoo woke up lying on cold stone. His head pounded and his right arm felt broken. Slowly, he opened his eyes and saw stars above him through a gaping hole in the ship's hull. They had crashed on the surface of the asteroid, or maybe it was a small planet. The air was thin but breathable. He stood up carefully and looked around. The broken chain was completely destroyed, scattered across a rocky landscape. Most of his ship was just twisted metal and sparking electronics. But somehow, impossibly, he was alive. Then he heard voices coming from where the cargo hold used to be. Not the electronic translators he was used to, but actual voices speaking perfect human language. He walked toward the sound, stepping over pieces of his ruined ship. What he found there changed everything he thought he knew about the universe. The beings from the cargo pods were standing free among the wreckage. Their pale blue skin glowed softly in the starlight, and their black eyes reflected the distant suns. But they were not running away or trying to attack him. Instead, they were working together to build something from the pieces of his ship. One of them, taller than the others with silver markings on its forehead, turned to look at Hanwoo. When it spoke, its voice carried the weight of centuries. "Hanwoo. Of Earth," it said, "we have been waiting for you to wake up. We need to talk." Agent Yoonji pushed through the twisted metal wreckage of her enforcement ship. Her left shoulder burned with pain from the crash landing, but she ignored it. After 3 years of chasing Hanwoo across the galaxy, she was not going to let a little crash stop her from making the arrest. Her team was scattered across the rocky surface of the small planet. She could see Taewoo checking his weapon about 50 meters away. Young-soo was limping toward them from where their ship had split in half during the crash. Of her 6-person team, only 3 had survived the impact. "Captain, are you picking up those energy readings?" Taewoo called out, pointing his scanner toward a cluster of blue lights in the distance. "There's something over there that's not showing up as human technology." Ji pulled out her own scanner and frowned at the display. The readings showed organized energy patterns, like a small city being built in real time. But that was impossible. This asteroid was supposed to be empty rock floating in dead space. "That must be where the Trafficker ship crashed," she said, checking her weapon. "Hanwoo probably survived and is trying to get his cargo ready for pickup. We move in fast and quiet." The 3 enforcement officers made their way across the rough terrain toward the energy readings. As they got closer, Yoonji could see lights moving in organized patterns. It looked like construction work, but who would be building anything? Out here in the middle of nowhere, when they reached the top of a small ridge, Yoonji stopped and stared in shock at what lay below them. The wreckage of the broken chain was scattered across a wide valley, but that was not what surprised her. Dozens of pale blue figures were working among the debris, building some kind of large structure using pieces of both ships. "Captain, are those the cargo that Hanwoo was trafficking?" Young-soo whispered, raising his rifle. "They don't look like they're being held captive anymore." Eunji watched through her scope as the blue-skinned beings moved with purpose and coordination. They were definitely not acting like prisoners. More strange was that she could see Hanwoo working alongside them, carrying pieces of metal and electronics to help with their construction project. "There's our target," she said, pointing at Hanwoo. "But something is very wrong here. Trafficked beings don't usually help their captors build shelters." She was about to order her team to move in when one of the blue beings looked directly up at their hiding spot. Its completely black eyes seemed to stare right through her scope and into her soul. Then it spoke, and impossibly she heard its voice clearly in her mind. "Agent Yunji of the Galactic Enforcement Division," the voice said calmly, "please come down and join us. There are things you need to understand before you make any decisions about Hanwu." Yunji jerked back from her scope in surprise. The being had known her name and rank without any introduction. More unsettling, it had spoken directly into her thoughts in perfect human language. "Did you both hear that?" she asked her team members. "Hear what, Captain?" Tae-woo replied, looking confused. "I didn't hear anything." The voice came again, still calm and patient. "Only you can hear me right now, Agent Onji. We chose to speak with you because your mind is the strongest among your group. Please trust us and come down alone. Your officers will be safe here." Every instinct Yunji had developed in 10 years of law enforcement told her this was a trap. But something about the voice felt ancient and wise, like talking to a very old teacher who had seen too much of the universe. "I'm going down there," she told her team. "If something goes wrong, call for backup and get off this planet." "Captain, that's not a good idea," Young-soo protested. "We don't know what those things are capable of." "That's exactly why I need to find out," Yunji replied, starting down the slope toward the valley. "Hanwu has been trafficking beings for 15 years. If his cargo is now working with him willingly, something major has changed." As she approached the work site, Hanwu noticed her coming and stopped what he was doing. His face showed a mixture of resignation and something else she had never seen before. It took her a moment to recognize it as hope. "Agent Yunji," he said, not trying to run or reach for a weapon. "I know you came here to arrest me, but you need to hear what these beings have to say first." The tall blue being with silver markings stepped forward. Up close, Yunji could see that its skin actually glowed with a soft inner light. Its black eyes held depths that seemed to stretch back through countless centuries. "I am called the Memory Keeper," it said aloud, its voice carrying harmonics that human voices could not produce. "We are the last of our kind, and we have been searching the galaxy for beings like you and Hanwu." "Beings like us?" Eunji asked, keeping her hand near her weapon despite feeling no threat from these creatures. "Humans," the Memory Keeper replied. "Your species has a gift that we have never encountered before. Your minds can link with ours without losing what makes you individually human. This makes you very valuable, but also very dangerous to an ancient enemy that has been hunting us." Hanwu stepped closer, and Yunji was surprised to see tears in his eyes. "They showed me things, Yunji. Memories of entire civilizations that were completely erased from existence. Not just killed, but removed from history as if they never existed at all. We call them the Erasers," the Memory Keeper continued. "For millions of years, they have been moving through the galaxy, destroying not just life, but all traces that life ever existed. They removed planets, stars, entire solar systems from reality itself." And she felt a chill run down her spine. "That's impossible. Nothing has that kind of power." "We thought the same thing until our homeworld started disappearing," another blue being said, joining the conversation. "First, the outer colonies stopped responding to communications. Then we sent ships to investigate and found empty space where planets used to be. No debris, no radiation, nothing at all." The Memory Keeper touched Yunji's forehead gently, and suddenly her mind filled with images. She saw beautiful worlds covered in crystal cities. She watched as families of blue beings lived peaceful lives among floating gardens and singing waterfalls. Then she saw the darkness come, consuming everything until only empty space remained. "These are not our memories," the Memory Keeper explained as the visions faded. "These are memories from a species we met 2,000 years ago. They entrusted their history to us before their last world was erased. We carry the memories of 47 different civilizations that no longer exist." "Why are you telling me this?" Eunji asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "Because the Erasers have found us again," Hanwu said quietly. "The trafficking network wasn't capturing these beings. They were using it to stay mobile, to keep moving and stay hidden while they searched for something that could fight back. And they found it in humans, the memory keeper added. Your neural patterns can merge with our memory storage capabilities. Together, we might be able to create something the erasers have never faced before. A new alarm started beeping from Unji's equipment. She checked her scanner and felt her blood turn cold. 3 large ships were approaching the planet, moving in the distinctive pattern used by unknown hostile forces. They found us, the memory keeper said sadly. The crash sent out too much energy. The erasers have scout ships in this sector. Unji looked at Hanwoo, then at the blue beings who were calmly preparing for what looked like their final battle. Everything she had believed about right and wrong suddenly seemed much more complicated. What do you need me to do? She asked. Dr. Minho arrived at the crash site in a small research shuttle just as the first eraser scout ship exploded in the planet's atmosphere. He watched through his cockpit window as strange purple flames consumed the alien vessel, leaving no debris. Behind, the explosion was completely silent, as if the ship had simply stopped existing. What kind of weapons can do that? He wondered aloud. Steering his shuttle toward the energy signatures his instruments had detected from the research station, Minho had been studying alien biology for 12 years, but he had never seen anything like the readings coming from this dead asteroid. His sensors showed 2 distinct life forms working in perfect harmony, creating energy patterns that should have been impossible according to everything he knew about science. When he landed near the construction site, he was met by Agent Yunji and a man he recognized from wanted posters as Hanwoo the Trafficker. But what caught his attention were the tall blue beings moving among the wreckage with fluid grace, their skin glowing like living starlight. Dr. Minho, Yunji called out as he stepped from his shuttle. Thank you for coming so quickly. We need your expertise to understand what's happening here. Are those the beings that destroyed the scout ship? Minho asked, pulling out his medical scanner to take readings of the blue figures. We call ourselves the Memory Keepers, said the tall being with silver markings. And we did not destroy the scout ship alone. We merged our consciousness with Hanwoo to access weapons technology we had stored from other civilizations. Minho's scanner started beeping rapidly as it analyzed the Memory Keeper's biology. The readings showed neural activity unlike anything in the scientific literature. The being's brain operated on frequencies that human minds could not normally process. Fascinating, Minho muttered, studying his scanner display. Your neural pathways are completely different from any known species. How are you communicating with us in our language? We learn quickly when we touch minds with other beings, the Memory Keeper explained. But most species cannot survive the process. Their consciousness gets lost in our memory banks, absorbed and destroyed. Hanwoo stepped forward, and Minho noticed that the Trafficker's eyes had changed. They still looked human, but there were flecks of the same silver that marked the Memory Keeper's forehead. It's different with humans, Hanwoo said. When they linked with me to fight the scout ship, I could feel their memories without losing myself. I saw things from 1,000 different worlds, but I'm still me. That should be impossible, Minho said, running his scanner over Hanwoo. The readings showed human neural patterns, but with additional activity in areas of the brain that were normally dormant. Your mind is processing information at speeds that would kill most people. A new voice joined the conversation from behind. Maybe that's what makes humans special. Minho turned to see a young woman approaching their group. She had the kind of scars that came from hard living, and her eyes held the careful alertness of someone who had survived terrible things. This is Hi, Yunji explained. She was trafficked by Hanwoo's network 3 years ago. She's been leading a resistance group that helps other victims. Ji-hai looked at Hanwoo with obvious hatred, her hand resting on the weapon at her side. I came here to kill you, she said simply. But these glowing people say you're needed to fight something, called erasers. Ji-hai, I know you have every right to hate me, Hanwoo said quietly. I've done terrible things to innocent people. But if we don't work together now, everyone in the galaxy might end up erased from existence. Show her, the memory keeper said to Hanwoo. Let her see what we're fighting. Hanwoo nodded and reached out toward Ji-hai. She stepped back instinctively, but the memory keeper spoke directly into her mind. We will not force the link, it said gently. But if you allow it, you can see the truth of what happened to 47 civilizations that once filled the galaxy with life and beauty. Ji-hai looked at the memory keeper for a long moment, then at Hanwoo. Finally, she took Hanwoo's offered hand. The moment their skin touched, Minho's scanner went wild with readings. Both humans' neural activity spiked to incredible levels, but instead of burning out their brains, the activity seemed to stabilize into complex patterns he had never seen before. Ji-hai gasped and stumbled backward, her eyes wide with shock and horror. I saw them, she whispered. Billions of people just not dead, but removed from reality like they never existed at all. The erasers don't just kill, the memory keeper explained. They consume the very concept of a civilization's existence. Planets, stars, history, even the memory of their passing gets absorbed into nothingness. Minho was frantically taking readings of both humans as they recovered from the mind link. This is incredible, he said. Your neural patterns actually synchronized during the connection. You were sharing consciousness without losing individual identity. That's what makes humans unique, another memory keeper said, joining their group. This one had blue markings instead of silver. Every other species we've tried to link with either rejects our consciousness completely or gets absorbed into our collective memory. But humans can ride the line between both, Unji realized. You can share memories and abilities without losing what makes you human. Exactly, the memory keeper confirmed. This is why we allowed ourselves to be captured by trafficking networks. We needed to find humans and test this theory. Ji-hai was still recovering from the shared memories, but her hatred toward Hanwoo had been replaced by something else. I saw what you experienced when you first linked with them, she told him. The guilt, the horror at what you've done. You're not the same person who trafficked me. I'm still responsible for the pain I caused, Hanwoo replied. But maybe I can use the rest of my life to make up for some of it. Dr. Minho looked up from the scanner readings with excitement. If humans can safely link with memory keeper consciousness, we might be able to create a network spanning multiple worlds. Each human memory keeper pair could share knowledge and abilities across vast distances. That's exactly what we need to fight the erasers, the silver-marked memory keeper said. They adapt to single-world defenses quickly, but a coordinated, galaxy-wide response might be something they've never encountered. A soft chiming sound came from the construction site behind them. The memory keepers had finished building something that looked like a giant crystal tower using pieces from both crashed ships. What is that? Yunji asked. A memory archive, the blue-marked memory keeper explained. It contains the complete history and technology of a civilization that successfully fought the erasers long ago. But the information is locked behind psychic barriers that only human memory keeper consciousness can access. I looked at the crystal tower, then at Hanwoo. If we link with them again, can we unlock those memories? Yes, the memory keeper replied, but the process will be dangerous. The civilization that built this archive was warning future generations about something even worse than the erasers themselves. Minho checked his instruments and saw new energy readings approaching. From deep space, we don't have much time to decide. My sensors are picking up a large fleet moving toward this system. The main eraser force, Hanwoo said grimly. They're coming to finish what their scout ship started. Ji-hai looked around at the small group of humans and memory keepers, then at the crystal tower that might hold the key to saving the galaxy, then, we better get started, she said, walking toward the archive. If we're going to die fighting these things, I want to make sure it counts for something. Dongmin had been fixing broken ships for 20 years, but he had never worked on anything like the crystal archive. The ancient technology responded to his touch in ways that made no sense according to everything he knew about engineering. When he placed his hands on the glowing surface, the crystal seemed to read his thoughts and show him exactly what tools he needed. The connection is getting stronger, he told Dr. Minho as they worked together to activate the archive's memory banks. It's like the crystal wants to teach me how to build things I've never seen before. The memory keeper, called the archivist, stood beside them, its pale blue skin glowing brighter as it linked minds with Dongmin. Through their shared consciousness, the engineer could see weapon designs that used principles beyond human science. "These plans are incredible," Dongmin said, his eyes wide with wonder as information flowed through his mind. "Ships that can phase in and out of normal space. Energy shields that get stronger when they're attacked. Weapons that can hit targets in other dimensions." Hanwoo approached their workstation, still bearing the silver marks that showed his connection to the memory keepers. The weight of ancient memories had changed him over the past few hours. He moved like someone carrying the grief of entire civilizations. "How long until the main eraser fleet arrives?" he asked Dr. Minho. "My sensors show about 6 hours," Minho replied, checking his instruments. "But Hanwoo, are you feeling all right? Your neural readings are showing incredible stress." Hanwoo sat down heavily on a piece of wreckage. "The eldest memory keeper has been sharing his deepest memories with me. I've seen the destruction of worlds that were beautiful beyond imagination. Entire species that created art and music and literature, all reduced to absolute nothing." Jihai walked over and sat beside him. The former trafficking victim had changed, too, since linking with the memory keepers. Her anger had been replaced by a deep sadness for all the lost civilizations. "I saw the same memories," she said quietly, "but I also saw something else. The civilization that built this archive didn't just fight the erasers. They found a way to make them retreat." "How?" Yunji asked, joining their conversation. The enforcement agent had been coordinating communications with nearby human colonies, trying to warn them about the approaching threat. By creating a network of consciousness that spanned multiple star systems, the archivist explained, its harmonious voice carrying ancient wisdom. When beings across many worlds shared memories and knowledge instantaneously, they became something the erasers could not understand or consume. Yujin, the communications officer from Onji's team, looked up from her equipment with excitement. "I've been able to reach 17 human colonies in nearby systems. Most of them think we're crazy, but 3 worlds are starting to evacuate their populations." "That's not enough," Hanwoo said, standing up with new determination. "We need to show them what we're fighting. Can the memory keepers extend their consciousness link across interstellar distances?" The eldest memory keeper, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. Its skin glowed with an inner light that seemed to contain the stars themselves. "We can attempt such a link," it said in a voice that seemed to echo across centuries. "But it will require all of our remaining life force. Memory keepers are not immortal, and we have been using our energy to preserve the memories of dead civilizations for thousands of years." "You're dying," Dr. Minho realized, looking at his scanner. "Readings of the memory keepers. Your life signs are getting weaker every time you link with us." "We have always known this would be our final battle," the eldest replied calmly. "We are the last of our kind, and we chose to spend our remaining years searching for beings who could carry on our mission." Dongmin looked up from the weapon schematics he had been studying. "These plans show something called a consciousness web. It's like a communication network, but instead of sending messages, it shares thoughts and memories across unlimited distances. If we can build that network before the erasers arrive," Jihai said, "we might be able to coordinate defenses across multiple worlds simultaneously." "But we need volunteers," Yenji pointed out. "Humans who are willing to link their minds with memory keepers and become part of this consciousness network." Yujin was already sending out calls on emergency frequencies to every human settlement within range. "I'm broadcasting the memory recordings that show what happened to the erased civilizations. People need to see what we're fighting against." As the hours passed, responses began coming in from across human space. At first, most people dismissed the warnings as some kind of elaborate hoax. But as more evidence reached them, including sensor readings of the approaching eraser fleet, attitudes began to change. "Colony ship New Horizon is requesting permission to join the consciousness network," Yujin reported. They have 3,000 volunteers ready to link with Memory Keeper consciousness. The mining station at Kepler-7 wants to help too, Dongmin added, working frantically to complete the network relay systems. They're saying if these erasers can make entire star systems disappear, nowhere in the galaxy is safe. Hanwha felt the eldest Memory Keeper's presence in his mind growing stronger. Through their connection, he could sense the approaching eraser fleet like a dark wave consuming everything in its path. They're not just ships, he said with growing horror. The erasers are machines the size of moons. Each one can swallow entire planets and digest them out of existence. Then we better make sure our network is ready, Jihai said, placing her hand on the crystal archive. Show me how to help. The archivist began transferring knowledge directly into Jihai's mind. She gasped as information about defensive technologies and battle tactics flowed through her consciousness. But along with the knowledge came something else, something that made her eyes widen with fear. There's something else in these memories, she said, her voice shaking. The civilization that built this archive, they didn't just fight the erasers. They discovered where the erasers came from and why they exist. What did they find? Dr. Minho asked. Jihai looked around at the group of humans and memory keepers working together to prepare their defenses. The erasers aren't just destroying civilizations randomly. They're looking for something specific, something that only appears when different species work together in perfect harmony. Like what we're doing right now, Yunji realized. Exactly, Jihai confirmed. And when they find it, they don't just erase the civilizations involved. They consume whatever it is that makes cooperation between species possible, making sure it can never happen again. The eldest memory keeper's glow dimmed as it used more of its life force to maintain the growing consciousness network. Then, we must succeed quickly, it said weakly, before they can study what makes humans and memory keepers compatible. Alarms began sounding from Yujin's communication equipment. The eraser fleet just entered the outer system, she announced. 12 ships, each one larger than our biggest space stations. Dongmin looked at the partially completed network relay. We need more time to finish the consciousness web. Time we don't have, Hanwoo said grimly, feeling the weight of impending battle through his connection to the memory keepers, but then Yujin's equipment lit up with incoming signals from across human space. Wait, she said with growing excitement. I'm getting responses from everywhere. Colonies, ships, space stations, even individual families on remote planets. Thousands of humans are volunteering to join the network. Then we start the link now. The eldest memory keeper decided. Ready or not, we make our stand here. So Young had been flying combat missions for 8 years, but she had never piloted anything like the fighter that materialized around her when she linked minds with the memory keeper navigator. The ship seemed to be made of crystallized light, responding to her thoughts faster than any manual controls ever could. This is incredible, she whispered as the fighter lifted off from the planet's surface. Through her connection to the memory keeper, she could feel the ship's capabilities flowing into her consciousness. It could phase between dimensions, becoming untouchable by normal weapons while still able to fire back. Below her, the battle for the small planet had already begun. The 12 eraser ships hung in space like dark moons, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. They moved with terrible purpose, extending tentacle-like probes toward the planet's surface. So Young, can you hear me through the network? Hanwoo's voice came directly into her mind, clear as if he were sitting beside her in the cockpit. I hear you, she replied, marveling at the instant communication across space. The consciousness network is working. I can feel thousands of other humans linked into the system. Through the shared network, So Young could sense human volunteers across dozens of star systems. A mining engineer on Kepler-7 was learning to operate ancient shield generators. A schoolteacher on New Horizon was helping coordinate evacuation efforts. A retired soldier on Earth was sharing combat tactics with memory keepers who had preserved battle strategies from 47 different civilizations. The erasers are beginning their primary attack. The eldest memory keeper's voice reached every connected mind simultaneously. They will try to consume the planet's surface first, then work their way down to the core. So Young watched in horror as one of the eraser ships extended a massive beam toward the planet. Where the beam touched, everything simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed or vaporized, but completely removed from reality as if it had never been. There, all fighters, this is So Young, she broadcast through the network. I'm beginning attack run on the lead eraser ship. Follow my flight pattern and phase out if they target you. Around her, other crystal fighters began materializing as more humans linked with Memory Keeper navigators. The pilots came from all over human space. Their consciousness connected through the network while their bodies remained safely on distant worlds. The first fighter squadron dove toward the nearest eraser ship, phasing in and out of normal space to avoid the creatures. Defenses. So Young felt her fighter respond to enemy fire by shifting into another dimension, making her completely untouchable while she lined up her attack. Target their probe extensions, came tactical advice from a human military strategist linked with a Memory Keeper who had fought similar battles eons ago. If we can damage their ability to consume matter, we can buy time for the planetary defenses. So Young's weapons fired beams of pure energy that somehow existed in multiple dimensions at once. The blast struck one of the eraser's feeding tentacles, and actually made it recoil. For the first time in the battle, one of the massive creatures showed signs of damage. "It's working!" she shouted through the network. "We can hurt them!" On the planet's surface, the survivors were coordinating their own defense. HFY had linked with a Memory Keeper strategist and was directing the activation of ancient shield generators built into the planet's crust. The shields flickered to life just as another eraser beam tried to consume a section of the surface. "The planetary defenses are holding," HFY reported through the network, "but I can feel the strain on the Memory Keepers. They're using their life force to power everything." Dr. Minho was monitoring the biological readings of both species through his instruments. "The Memory Keepers are burning themselves out to maintain the network," he announced with growing concern. "At this rate, they'll be dead within hours." "Then we need to expand the network faster," Inji realized. "Get more humans involved to share the load." Yujin was working frantically at her communication station. Her mind linked with Memory Keepers who could broadcast across interstellar distances. "I'm reaching human settlements in 5 different sectors now. The network is growing exponentially." As more humans joined the consciousness web, something unexpected began to happen. The network didn't just share knowledge and abilities between individuals. It began creating new capabilities that neither species possessed alone. Dong-Min, still working with the archivist to operate ancient technologies, suddenly understood principles of engineering that had taken the original builders centuries to develop. "I know how to build weapons that can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously," he announced. "The network is teaching me things faster than any computer could process." Hanwoo felt the change too. Through his connection to the eldest Memory Keeper, he could sense the thoughts and emotions of thousands of humans across the galaxy. But instead of being overwhelmed by the mental noise, his consciousness seemed to expand to accommodate everything. "We're becoming something new," he realized. Not human and not Memory Keeper, but something that combines the best of both species. The effect rippled through the network as more humans and Memory Keepers linked their minds. Scientists on research stations found themselves understanding alien technologies instantly. Artists discovered they could create works that expressed emotions from dozens of different species. Soldiers developed tactical instincts that drew from the combat experience of countless civilizations, but the erasers were adapting too. The massive creatures began changing their attack patterns, trying to disrupt the consciousness network by targeting the relay points. "They're learning," So Young warned as she dodged a new type of weapon that could track phased fighters across dimensions. "The erasers are studying our tactics and developing counters." "Then we learn faster," came a new voice through the network. It was Taemin, a young engineer who had just joined from a space station near Earth. His consciousness merged with a Memory Keeper, who specialized in adaptive technologies. working together through the network, Taemin and his memory keeper partner began developing new fighter capabilities in real time. The crystal ships started growing additional weapons and defensive systems, evolving to match whatever the erasers deployed against them. The network is becoming self-improving, Dr. Minho observed with amazement. Every time the erasers adapt, our combined consciousness creates new solutions faster than they can respond. The battle reached a critical point when 3 eraser ships coordinated their attacks on the planet's main shield generator. The ancient defenses flickered and began to fail under the combined assault. "We're going to lose the shields," Chai warned through the network. "I need more power to keep them running." "Take it from us," came the immediate response from thousands of human volunteers. Across dozens of star systems, people began channeling their mental energy through the network to power the failing defenses. The eldest memory keeper's voice grew weak as it coordinated the massive transfer of consciousness energy. "This is what we hoped for," it said with satisfaction. "A network of minds working in perfect harmony across the galaxy." But the effort was taking its toll. One by one, the oldest memory keepers began to fade as they used the last of their life force to maintain the network connections. Their ancient wisdom flowed into their human partners, ensuring that their knowledge would survive even after they were gone. "They're dying to save us," Hanwoo realized, feeling the eldest memory keeper's consciousness growing dimmer in his mind. "No," the ancient being corrected gently. "We are dying to transform you, to give humanity the tools and knowledge needed to protect the galaxy after we are gone." The battle in space intensified as So Young led wave after wave of crystal fighters against the eraser fleet. The massive creatures were taking damage now, their feeding tentacles severed and their hulls scarred by dimensional weapons they had never encountered before, but victory came with a price. As the memory keepers sacrificed themselves to power, the network, their human partners, had to shoulder more of the mental load. Some volunteers began dropping out of the system, unable to handle the strain of maintaining consciousness across interstellar distances. "The network is becoming unstable," Yujin warned. "We're losing connection with the outer colonies." "Then we make our final push now," So Young decided, leading her fighter squadron in a desperate attack on the lead eraser ship. "Before we lose the ability to coordinate our efforts." The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance as human consciousness merged with ancient memory keeper wisdom in a last desperate gamble against an enemy that had consumed civilizations for millions of years. Taemin was the youngest person in the consciousness network, but as the final battle raged above the small planet, he found himself carrying the memories of civilizations that had existed for millions of years. The memory keeper who had linked with him was fading fast, transferring the last of its ancient knowledge into his young human mind. "I can see everything they preserved," Taemin whispered in amazement as information flowed through his consciousness. Art, music, science, philosophy from dozens of species. It's all still here, still alive in the network. Around him the other survivors worked frantically to maintain their defenses as the eraser ships pressed their final attack. The massive creatures had learned to coordinate their assaults, targeting the network relay points to disrupt human memory keeper communication. "We're losing connection with the outer colonies," Yujin reported, her voice strained from the effort of maintaining interstellar communications. "The network is breaking down." Hanwoo felt the eldest memory keeper's presence growing weaker in his mind. The ancient being had been using its life force to hold the entire network together, but even its incredible willpower was finally reaching its limits. "There is something you must know," the eldest whispered directly into Hanwoo's consciousness. "We are not just dying from the effort of maintaining the network. Memory keepers were always meant to be temporary guardians of galactic knowledge." "What do you mean?" Hanwoo asked, though part of him already understood. "Our species was created by an even older civilization to preserve their memories after the first eraser attacks. We have been carrying this burden for eons, waiting for beings who could inherit our mission and carry it forward." Through the network, Hanwoo could sense the truth of the eldest's words. The memory keepers had been searching the galaxy not just for allies but for successors. Beings who could take over the responsibility of protecting civilizations from erasure. You chose humans because we can maintain individual identity while sharing collective consciousness, Hanwoo realized. Exactly, the eldest confirmed. Other species either reject the network entirely or lose themselves in the collective memory. Only humans can be both individual and connected at the same time. Above them, So Young was leading the final assault on the Eraser fleet. Her crystal fighter had evolved during the battle, growing new weapons and capabilities as the network learned to counter each Eraser adaptation. But the massive creatures were showing signs of something they had never displayed before. Uncertainty. They're hesitating, So Young reported through the network. The lead Eraser ship is pulling back instead of attacking. Dr. Minho was monitoring the battle through his instruments when he noticed something remarkable in the energy readings. The network has reached critical mass, he announced. We now have over 10 million humans linked across more than 100 star systems. That's more minds than the Erasers have ever faced in a coordinated network. HFY added, her consciousness expanded by connection with a memory keeper strategist. They don't know how to fight an enemy that gets stronger during battle instead of weaker. The tide of battle turned when the network achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. Instead of individual civilizations fighting alone against the Erasers, millions of human minds began working together with preserved knowledge from dozens of extinct species. Engineers on remote mining stations found themselves building weapons, using technology from civilizations that had been erased millennia ago. Artists created new forms of beauty by combining human creativity with alien aesthetic concepts. Scientists made breakthrough discoveries by merging human intuition with memory keeper analytical abilities. We're not just fighting the Erasers, Taemin realized as the full scope of the network became clear to him. We're proving that cooperation between species creates something they cannot consume or erase. The eldest memory keeper used the last of its strength to share one final truth with Hanwoo. The Erasers were created by a machine intelligence that feared cooperation between different species. It believed that diversity led to chaos and conflict, so it built the Erasers to eliminate any civilization that learned to work with others. But they were wrong, Hanwoo said, feeling the network of human and memory keeper consciousness stretching across the galaxy like a web of light. Yes, the eldest agreed, its voice growing fainter. Cooperation does not create chaos. It creates something greater than any single species could achieve alone. As the memory keepers used the last of their life force to transfer their preserved knowledge to human partners, the consciousness network began to stabilize. Humans across hundreds of worlds found themselves becoming the new guardians of galactic memory, inheriting the responsibility of protecting other civilizations from erasure. The Eraser fleet, faced with an enemy that adapted faster than they could evolve countermeasures, made a tactical decision they had never made before in millions of years of conquest. They retreated. They're pulling back, So Young reported with amazement, as the massive creatures began withdrawing from the system. All 12 ships are leaving. This is just the beginning, Inji warned through the network. They'll study what happened here and try to develop new strategies. Then we'll be ready for them, Jihai replied. Her consciousness now expanded to include tactical knowledge from 47 different civilizations. The network will keep growing, connecting more species and preserving more knowledge. As the immediate threat passed, Hanwoo found himself facing a different kind of judgment. The consciousness network included thousands of people who knew about his past as a trafficker. Through their shared memories, they could see every crime he had committed, every life he had damaged, but they could also see his transformation, his genuine remorse, and his willingness to sacrifice everything to protect others. The network's judgment was not based on punishment, but on how he could best serve the greater good. The trafficking routes you used to exploit innocent beings, Yingji said, her voice carrying the collective wisdom of the network. The same routes can now be used to establish monitoring stations and safe havens for vulnerable civilizations. You know the hidden paths between star systems better than anyone. Ji-Hai added, her anger toward Hanwu transformed into understanding through their shared experiences. That knowledge can help us protect species that the erasers might target. Next, Taemin, now carrying the preserved memories of the Memory Keepers, stepped forward with new authority beyond his years. The network needs guardians who can travel between worlds, maintaining connections and watching for signs of eraser activity. You're asking me to become what I once hunted, Hanwu realized. A protector instead of a predator. The galaxy needs people who understand both sides, Dr. Minho explained. Someone who knows how vulnerable beings can be exploited so they can be better protected. As the consciousness network settled into its new configuration, with humans taking over the Memory Keeper's role as galactic guardians, reports began coming in from across known space. Other species, seeing what humans and Memory Keepers had accomplished together, were requesting to join the network. We're getting contact requests from the Crystalline Collective. The Hive Worlds, even the solitary nomads, Yujin reported. Everyone wants to be part of a network that can stand against the erasers. The network began to expand beyond its human memory. Keeper origins, incorporating the unique abilities and knowledge of dozens of different species. Each new addition made the whole stronger, creating a galactic community that could adapt and grow faster than any threat could evolve to destroy it. Hanwu looked around at the crash site where everything had changed. The wreckage of his trafficking ship, the broken chain, had been transformed into a monument to cooperation between species. The crystal memory archive still glowed with preserved knowledge, but now it was connected to living networks spanning the galaxy. The final trafficker lived through the wreck, he said quietly, remembering the chain of events that had brought them to this moment, but the cargo within altered everything. Not just the cargo, Taemin corrected, his young voice carrying. The wisdom of ages. The choice to listen instead of exploit. The decision to protect instead of profit. That's what really changed everything. As the first galactic memory network took its place as guardian of civilizations across the stars, Hanwu began his new mission. Using his knowledge of hidden routes and forgotten worlds, he would help establish the monitoring stations and safe havens that would protect vulnerable species from future eraser attacks the trafficking networks of the past had been built on. Exploitation and suffering. But from their ashes rose something beautiful, a web of consciousness dedicated to preserving the diversity and wonder of galactic civilization. In the end, the worst aspects of humanity had been transformed into its greatest strength. The final trafficker became the first guardian, and his cargo of captured beings became the teachers, who showed the galaxy how to work together against the darkness that threatened to erase them all. The chain was broken, but from its fragments, a network was born that would span the stars for generations to come.